Hi, it's Jacob from Go Industrial, and thank you so much for purchasing your petrol-driven pressure washer from us. And in today's video, we're going to run you through getting to know your machine, getting to know what's come with the kit. We're going to talk to you about the safety risks, how to get it set up, what you need to be mindful of in terms of ongoing maintenance and startup fluids. And we're going to get this thing hooked up to some water and cranking to show you the benefits of a petrol-driven pressure washer. So regardless of what brand you've purchased from us, whether it's Graco, Jetwave, Bar Group, Aussie Pumps, or any of the range that we have at Go Industrial, most of these petrol-driven direct drive pressure washers are very, very similar. So today we've got the Graco G Force 3325 HADD, which is a Honda-driven direct drive pressure washer, but the operations procedure is pretty much the same across all the brands. So hope you enjoy. Let's get into understanding the safety risks of a pressure cleaner. Okay, safety. We always like to talk about this because it is always important. This is a petrol-driven unit, which means that you've got a Honda motor mounted on here, which is operated with petrol. Therefore, you have a few risks when it comes to petrol being a flammable material. Please never use this machine inside of a hazardous or confined area. You need to be mindful of hot points here, like the engine outlet. Be careful when it's operating as well for pinch points around the motor. Because it is a pressure system, this pressure cleaner in particular will get to 3,300 PSI. So you want to be very careful around the unloader valve here that the hoses are connected properly, which we'll run you through later. You also want to be mindful of when we're actually using the land from the gun, that yes, there is pressure in that system and we have to follow the pressure relief procedure if we're needing to change any of these components in the system. But we'll run through that in a sec. So what comes with your kit, it'll vary depending on what model you've purchased and which brand. The stuff over here on my left, the triplex pump oil, the engine oil, and your petrol will not come standard. You'll need to make sure you source that yourself, or if we've put that on your order, happy days, you're all sorted. I'll have links below to what we recommend for engine oil, pump oil, and what type of petrol to use, and we'll talk about that in the next section. You will get your pressure cleaner all fully assembled with the motor, the pump, and all the fittings that you need to make it work. You'll also get your applicator gun and lamp. This will have connections ready to go with the hose that is included. And then you'll also have 3/8 by 15 meters of pressure cleaning hose, which is standard in the box. If you've ordered extra, they can easily join into each other, or you can get a longer length if you request through our Go team. Last but not least, you will also get the Honda instruction manual and care guide. You'll get a pressure gauge, which can tee into your outlet here, so you know what pressure you're operating at. You'll also get a siphon tube, which lets you suck chemicals through for those types of cleaning applications. You'll also get the Graco operations manual if you've purchased a Graco unit, which is very thorough. It'll run you through everything I'm running through in this video and more. Has all your safety risks, spare parts, operations procedure, ongoing maintenance tips and tricks, and troubleshooting guides as well. You'll also get the certificate of conformity from Graco, which says this is a genuine Honda motor and it's all been built in the States and it's ready to go. So let's get to know your pressure cleaner unit. So getting to understand your machine, we firstly have our Honda GX200. Here we have an on and off switch for the motor. Over on the side here, this is a pull start. So we have your pull cord here. There is no key start on this model. And then at the top here, we have our fuel cap, which you just twist to fill up with petrol at the top. Here we have our engine speed control, which is illustrated by this decal. To my right is at minimum speed. To my left is at maximum. So you flick that lever as you're increasing or decreasing the engine speed. On this section here, we have our choke for the motor, and we also have our fuel supply. So to the right, you turn your fuel supply on, and to my left, you turn your choke on or off, and fuel supply off. These three sections of the motor, other than the on-off switch and the pull start, is everything you need to use to get this thing up and running. This is your housing for the engine air filter, which can be accessed above by that little spin-off wing nut. In the middle, we have your spark plug, which sits in here. And then on the left, we have your engine exhaust. You want to be careful, this will generate heat as it's operating, and you want to be careful not to touch on top when it's running. In this section here with the black cap, we have your engine oil for the Honda, which can just be simply unscrewed and that's our oil cap there. At the top here, we have your unloader valve, and this is what we call our triplex pump. This is what's pumping all your water and handling all that pressure. At the top here, you have your unloader, which you increase or decrease your pressure by screwing in or out. You want to be careful you don't screw this in too hard or keep it too loose. This fitting here, which is a male quick connect fitting, is to attach your outlet hose to your gun and lance. This one over here is your water inlet hose, which is often those garden hoses. You'll have a male fitting which screws into here. This is a strainer which is going to pick up any type of sediment or gunk that's in water. This is your pump section here, which the Honda motor directly drives the pump. So you have pump oil at the top in this little section that you can unscrew, and we'll be showing you how to fill that up. You also have a dip, which will show you if there's pump oil is adequate and at a good level or not. I'll screw that back in and we'll fill that up in a sec. Down here, we also have our nozzle storage, which gives you all of your options. 65 degrees for chemical, which is nice and wide. We have a 0-degree nozzle, which is a nice pinpoint jet. 15 degrees, 25 degrees, and 40 degrees is not included standard. You can see here it's illustrated to what type of fan it will give you, and these nozzles are spec'd to the flow rate and the pressure of the exact pressure cleaner you buy. So you don't need to be worried that they're the wrong nozzles for the wrong machine. We also have over here another point on the motor oil for the Honda. The other side we showed you was more of a drain and or fill point. This oil cap here is also a dip, which will show you if there's sufficient oil in the engine or not. I'll put this back in and we will talk about what type of engine and pump oil you're going to need for your machine. So in terms of ongoing maintenance and oils, any new unit will ship with sufficient pump oil and sufficient engine oil. It obviously won't ship with your unleaded petrol. That's just due to shipping regulations. But the question that we get is, what two oils do I need for the pump? And the second one for the engine. Engine oil, doesn't really matter what brand, but 10W30 is what we recommend. Here we stock the Valvoline range, which we've been really happy with. If you want to fill up with your engine oil, as we showed you over here on that tight shot, you just want to unscrew this oil cap dipstick, check the dipstick to make sure there's sufficient oil or not. If that's running low over time, you will need to fill that up. And then simply with an oil jug or a funnel, you want to tip your engine oil in, and you just want to make sure that that is going into your motor. Make sure you do not overfill this. Do it very slowly and take your time. Same story. I'll just quickly put that back in before I lose all my oil. If you're wanting to fill up the pressure washer pump oil, we recommend this Graco pressure washer pump oil or any equivalent brand for triplex plunger pumps. We'll leave that description below and with a link. You want to unscrew this oil cap at the top. You can see there's sufficient oil already in the machine. But again, if we were going to need to fill this up, you want to get your oil drain or your funnel, and you want to make sure that you're filling up that engine oil, that pump oil there as well. If you have any questions about that procedure or that process, please refer to the operations manual, which has some really clean diagrams of how to do that. Or you can give us a call or a FaceTime or leave a comment below as well. Let's talk petrol. Firstly, what type of unleaded fuel should I be putting in my direct drive pressure cleaner? We recommend anything E10, 91, 95 or 98. As long as the octane level is above 82, and I'll put an annotation if I have gotten that wrong, you'll be fine to run your pressure cleaner. Try and make sure that your fuel is fairly fresh. So getting that from the pump and bowser at your petrol station. 3 months is that sweet spot. Anything older than 3 months, yes, you can still use it, but just be careful that there's no sediment or gunk that works its way into your jerry cans or your fuel supply. The motor is the heart of your whole unit, as well as the water pump. So if you're putting dirty fuel in your unit, you will not be having a good time. So without further ado, we're going to unscrew the fuel cap. We're going to put that to the side. We're going to open our jerry can. And slowly but surely, we are going to fill with our fuel. go. Once done, you want to make sure that air cap is screwed on nice and evenly, so no sediment's working its way in the tank. All right, so let's get this set up. This is our brass tap adapter, which you can also get a plastic tap adapter. I would recommend brass, and I'll put the link below for this adapter. You want to put it in front of this strainer here, and you want to hold this ring, and we just want to screw that in. You want to make sure that's as tight as you can get it, hand tight, and this will spin to allow the hose to rotate. We are now going to go to our tap and hose, and I'm going to explain the two hose types you can run. This is our standard diameter of garden hose, which you can run for small machines up to about 13 litres a minute. Our Graco over here is 3,300 PSI at 9.5 litres a minute. So this will be delivering sufficient water flow. The rule of thumb is if your pressure washer is using more water per minute than the flow rate can handle, you want to increase the diameter size of the water hose feeding into the machine. So if you're above 15 litres a minute, go for, and I'll put it in the description or I'll annotate if I'm wrong, it should be about a 1-inch water hose. Therefore, this size here will be bigger and you'll need to get a bigger adapter for your machine. So let's go click this onto our Graco and I'll show you. With our water supply off at the tap, I'm going to connect this here. Click. You can see that that's all ready to go. We're going to show you now how we're going to connect the hose and the gun to the machine before we start to turn anything on. We have our pressure gauge here, which I'm going to connect. You can see it's got a female quick connect fitting on one side. It's got the male on the other end for your hose. So we're going to come over here to the male end. I'm going to pull that back and I'm going to put it on. So there you go. We can see our pressure and what's happening there. And then with our hose connection, they're female quick connects. I'm going to pull that back and slide it onto the male end here. We want to make sure that this is nice and tight. We're going to test it all with water first from the tap, but we're not going to turn the motor on for pressure. So that's what we call just a wet test without pressure. So on the other end, we're going to walk this hose out and make sure it's nice and slack. We're going to find this male end here. We're going to pull back the female connection on the gun, plug in the male connection, and we're good to go to the water tap and see, make sure it's all running as planned. Okay, so we've turned the tap on at our water supply. We've connected the outlet hose with our pressure gauge. You don't have to run a gauge if you don't want to. You can go straight from the female fitting straight to the male quick connect. We also have our water hose on nice and tight. We've turned it all on. We've made sure there's no leak points here or on the gun. I want to talk about overheating and cavitation. We never want our pump to be running without any fluid or water going through it. If there's no water running through the pump and it's running, you will cause it to overheat. You'll do damage to your seals and it's going to cost you a lot in maintenance. So always make sure that your water's connected, it's running, you've tested the system to make sure there's no leaks. And now we're finally going to get this thing fired up. I'm going to turn the motor on. We're going to get some water bleeding through the gun and we're going to whack a nozzle on and clean this car park up. Let's do it. All right, so full of fuel. We've checked our oil. Let's turn this motor on by flicking that switch. We want to start with our fuel supply on. We want to put the choke on only to start, and we want to keep the motor to the low position where it says min. Now I'm going to pull start this. I'm going to adjust the speed and I'm going to turn the choke off. And now we're good to go. So I'm making sure that the motor's only at a low speed. I'm going to adjust that just slightly. And we'll come over here to the unloader valve. This unloader valve is going to adjust our pressure. So you can see here, when it's wound all the way out, it's going to be at a very low pressure. So you can see that there's no pressure in the machine right now. And now we're going to put our nozzle in. So I'm going to put this 20-degree nozzle in at the end here. We're going to pull that back, push that in, make sure that's nice and tight. And now we're going to make sure we have a bit of flow. As you can see me wind this on, it's going to increase in pressure. And I'm going to increase the speed of the motor. So that'll build and it will hold. And now we can start to wash. So whenever you're cleaning, if you need to change the nozzle at the end of the gun, I always recommend putting the trigger lock on here. So that way we can't accidentally trigger ourselves while we're pulling this off. So all the pressure right now is back at the unloader valve. That was that dial that we adjusted. I've adjusted the motor now to full revs, and that way we've got that 3,300 PSI running through the machine. I'm gonna put on a slightly smaller tip or nozzle, and I'm gonna show you how we can clean this dirt off the lines over here on the car park. To say now that we want to relieve the pressure in the system and shut it all down, I want to put the trigger lock back on my gun, like so we don't accidentally press anything. We'll come back over to the machine. I want to unwind the pressure. Relieve the pressure, and then I also want to turn the motor speed down. See how I've done that very gradually? Then I still have pressure in the gun. So I've loosened the unloader valve, I've turned the pressure down, I've turned the motor down. We want to make sure that now I only have this stream of water running, as you can see. And then what we'll do now is actually turn the motor off. And that's how you relieve pressure in the system without putting too much stress on the pump, too much stress on your gun, too much stress on your motor. So I'll cover that off one more time while it's not running. I unwound the pressure in the unloader valve. I decreased the motor speed all the way to the minimum. I relieved pressure in the gun, making sure that I only have water running through without pressure. And then I've turned the Honda motor off at the on-off switch. And that's it. Now I'm good to turn the water off the tap, unplug this all, put it away, and then next time I start up, check oils, check petrol, make sure my fittings are good to go. And that's pretty much our guide on how to get started with your direct drive petrol pressure cleaner from Go Industrial. Of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact us straight away. Go through that operations manual and have a really thorough read. It's got plenty of info in there. Or like I said, give us a call or we can jump on a video chat just to make sure that you're picking this up nice and easy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.